Carrots and night vision. You've heard it your whole life. Eat your carrots. They'll help you see in the dark. Sounds logical. Sounds like something a doctor would say. Nope. It came from a spy operation. World War II. The British RAF is suddenly shooting down German planes in the dark at a terrifying rate. The real reason? A brand new top-secret technology called radar. The British needed to hide that radar existed, so they invented a cover story. They fed the press a story. Their pilots had extraordinary night vision because they ate enormous amounts of carrots. The Germans believed it. The British public believed it. And 80 years later, so do your parents. Here's the partial truth that made the lie stick. Carrots do contain beta-carotene, which your body converts into vitamin A. And vitamin A deficiency can cause night blindness. That part is real. But if you already have normal vitamin A levels, which almost everyone in the developed world does, eating extra carrots does absolutely nothing for your night vision. Zero. The needle doesn't move. That's what makes this myth so elegant. It's built on a kernel of real science, wrapped around a wartime lie. Myths don't need to be true. They just need to sound plausible and get repeated. The only thing carrots give you at night is orange teeth. The 10% brain myth. You've heard it 1,000 times. Humans only use 10% of their brains, and imagine what we could do if we unlocked the rest. It's one of the most flattering myths ever invented, because it tells you that you're secretly a genius, and the only thing standing between you and greatness is a little self-improvement. There's just one problem. It's completely, demonstrably, embarrassingly false. Modern brain scans, fMRI, PET scans, show that over the course of a single day, virtually every region of your brain becomes active. Even during sleep, massive networks of your brain are running maintenance, consolidating memories, regulating breathing, keeping your heart beating. Your brain is 3% of your body weight, but burns 20% of your total energy, because every neuron that isn't firing is still being kept alive, maintained, ready. Nature does not keep 90% of an organ on standby. That's not how evolution works. So where did this myth actually come from? The short answer is nobody really knows, and that's part of what makes it so slippery. One popular theory: early psychologists observed that glial cells, the brain's structural support tissue, don't fire electrical signals, and someone, somewhere, misread that as inactive. Another theory: self-help writers in the early 20th century latched onto a misquoted William James line about humans rarely achieving their full mental potential, and someone added a number. And then Einstein's name got attached to it. Because if a genius says you have untapped genius, that's a story nobody wants to fact-check. The myth spread because it felt true. It offered a story where the limits you feel every day aren't real, where the ceiling is a door. But the real story is even better. You are already using your entire brain, and it is extraordinary. Sugar rush. Birthday party, cake, candy, juice boxes, and within 20 minutes the living room looks like a mosh pit. Every parent in history has blamed the sugar. And honestly, it sounds completely logical. Kid eats sugar. Kid goes wild. Sugar caused the wildness. Classic cause and effect. Except scientists decided to actually test it. And they ran over a dozen double-blind controlled studies. Every single one reached the same conclusion. Sugar does not cause hyperactivity. But here's where it gets genuinely wild. One study told parents their kids had just had a sugary drink when the drink was actually completely sugar-free. Those parents still rated their children as significantly more hyperactive than parents who were told nothing special. The sugar wasn't in the drink, it was in the parent's brain. This is called expectation bias. Your brain sees what it's already primed to see. And then there's the other half of the equation, the environment. Kids don't eat sugar in a quiet room alone. They eat it at birthday parties, Halloween, and holidays, the most stimulating, exciting, socially charged events of their entire year. Of course, they're running around. They're children at a party, not lab rats responding to glucose. The sugar myth survived not because it's true, but because it perfectly fits the story parents were already telling themselves. A belief doesn't spread because it's accurate. It spreads because it confirms what you already suspect. Your kid wasn't running on sugar. They were running on pure, unbridled joy, and you were just in the way. Napoleon, short, angry, compensating. Napoleon Bonaparte, conqueror of Europe, master tactician, alleged owner of the world's most famous height complex. The story goes, he was 5'2", furious about it, and that's why he overcompensated by, conquering most of the known world. There's just one problem. He wasn't 5'2". Napoleon stood around 5 feet 6 or 7 inches in modern measurements, average for a Frenchman of his era and possibly slightly above it. So where did 5'2" come from? A unit conversion error. French inches and English inches are not the same length. Napoleon was recorded as 5'2" in French inches. Translated to English inches, that's closer to 5'7". Someone dropped that conversion, and history ran with it. But the conversion error alone didn't make the myth immortal. That took a cartoonist. James Gilray was a British political cartoonist, and he had one job: make Napoleon look ridiculous. He drew him small, petulant, and vain, over and over and over again. Gilray's images spread across Britain the way memes spread now: fast, funny, and completely divorced from reality. By the time anyone thought to check the original French records, the short Napoleon was already a historical fact, cemented into textbooks, jokes, and the English language itself. Psychologists even named a behavior after it: the Napoleon complex, the idea that short men overcompensate with aggression. Based on a man who wasn't even short, there's a name for this pattern: myths we invent specifically to cut powerful figures down to size. Historians call it the tall poppy phenomenon. We build them up, then we need a reason to tear them down. Napoleon conquered half of Europe, so we made him small, not because it was true, because it made us feel better. Sleep spiders. You swallow 8 spiders a year in your sleep. You've heard it. You've probably repeated it. It's one of those facts that feels too specific and too disgusting to be made up. 8 is suspiciously exact, not a few, not sometimes. 8. That specificity is exactly what makes it stick. Here's the actual origin. A writer named Lisa Holst invented it in 1993, on purpose. She was writing an article about how easily people forward misinformation, and she seeded a list of fake facts onto the early internet as a demonstration. The spider fact spread so fast and so far that people forgot it was bait. The article proving it was fake is now less famous than the fake fact itself. But here's the biology, and it kills the myth even harder. To a spider, a sleeping human is an absolute nightmare. A massive, warm, vibrating surface, exhaling a continuous blast of carbon dioxide. Every single signal a spider reads says, predator, danger, do not approach. Spiders don't wander into open mouths. Open mouths are giant, dark, warm caves that vibrate and exhale, the spider equivalent of a haunted house. The annual spider count is exactly 0. So why did so many people believe it? Because disgust is jet fuel for sharing. A fact that makes you gag has a biological advantage. Your brain tags it as important, memorable, and urgent to warn others about. Misinformation doesn't spread because people are gullible. It spreads because disgust, surprise, and specificity hack the exact systems your brain uses to decide what's worth remembering. Lisa Holst was right about one thing. The internet was the perfect petri dish. She planted one disgusting fake fact. 30 years later, it's still being repeated, which means the demonstration never really ended. 5 senses, the number every child learns, every classroom teaches, and every trivia night accepts without question. Sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, clean, tidy, finished. Aristotle counted 5 senses in 350 BC, and for 2,500 years, basically, nobody pushed back. Here's the problem. Aristotle was wrong. Close your eyes right now and touch your nose with your index finger. You nailed it. Without sight, without touch, without any of Aristotle's 5. That's proprioception, your body's internal GPS, telling your brain exactly where every limb is in space at every moment. That's sense number 6, and we haven't even left the house yet. Thermoception. You sense temperature without touching anything. Nociception. The dedicated pain detection system, completely separate from touch. Vestibular sense. The fluid-filled chambers in your inner ear that tell you whether you're upright, upside down, or spinning. That's already 8 senses, and neuroscientists are still counting. There's also interoception, your brain's live feed from inside your own body. It's why you can feel hunger, anxiety, a racing heartbeat, or the need to use the bathroom, none of which involves your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or skin. So why did 5 stick for 2.5 millennia? Because the 5 classical senses have obvious organs. You can point to an eye, an ear, a nose. Proprioception doesn't have an organ you can point to. Balance lives in the ear but feels like nothing until you spin in circles and the room won't stop moving. If you can't see it, name it or dissect it on a table. Ancient philosophers didn't have much to say about it. The real definition of a sense is simple: any system that takes information from inside or outside your body and delivers it to your brain. By that definition, you are running somewhere between 9 and 21 distinct sensory channels right now, simultaneously, without noticing any of them. Your body isn't running 5 programs. It's running an operating system you never learned the name of. Lightning never strikes the same place twice. You've heard it your whole life, as a comfort, as a metaphor, as if the universe has some kind of fairness policy. The universe does not have a fairness policy. The Empire State Building gets struck by lightning an average of 23 times per year. Not because it's unlucky, because it's tall, pointy, and made of metal, which is basically a written invitation. Here's the physics. Lightning is just a massive electrical discharge looking for the fastest path between a charged cloud and the ground. It doesn't care where it struck last time. It takes the easiest route, every single time. In fact, this is exactly how lightning rods work. They don't repel lightning, they attract it on purpose, directing the strike safely into the ground. Benjamin Franklin didn't just discover electricity, he built a device that works precisely because lightning is predictable, repeatable, and consistent. So where did the phrase come from? It was always a metaphor, a way of saying bad luck doesn't pile up on the same person twice, which sounds comforting but is also completely made up. But here's the real reason it stuck. It appeals to something deep in our brains called the gambler's fallacy. Flip a coin 5 times and get heads every time. Your brain screams that tails is due. But the coin doesn't remember the last 5 flips. And the lightning bolt doesn't remember where it struck yesterday. Random events don't balance themselves out, to be fair. They just keep being random, which, if you're standing under the tallest tree in a storm, is a very important distinction. 8 glasses of water a day. You've heard it your whole life. Doctors say it. Fitness influencers say it. Your mom said it. 8 glasses, 64 ounces, every single day, no exceptions. Here's the problem. There is no clinical study that established that number. It traces back to a 1945 U.S. Food and Nutrition Board recommendation, and almost nobody read the full sentence. The original text said adults need roughly 2.5 liters of water daily. And then, right after, it said, most of that is already contained in prepared foods. That clause got dropped. The number survived. The context didn't. Because here's the thing. You get water from nearly everything you eat. Cucumbers are 96% water. Soup is mostly water. Even your morning coffee counts. Modern research shows hydration needs vary wildly. By your body size, the climate you're in, how active you are, and what you ate that day. And for most healthy adults, thirst is an extraordinarily reliable guide. Your body is already tracking this in real time. You evolved millions of years without a single person counting glasses. And somehow, the species survived. That's the real lesson here. Not just about water, but about all of it. A number gets cited, a clause gets dropped, and a generation later it's gospel. Authoritative-sounding numbers feel like facts. Round numbers feel like science. And once something feels true, it spreads faster than the truth ever could.